Have you ever been on a family road trip and wondered if there's anything fun to do? Of course you have. Who hasn't? Well, if you're traveling across Texas, there are hundreds of places for you to stop, take a tour, sit down and have a meal at, or even take a crazy picture by. Texas is home to over 24 million people and hundreds of roadside attractions. Nevertheless, what makes Texas's roadside attractions stand out among the rest? For starters, Texas is home to the second largest fire hydrant in the world in Beaumont, the largest pilgrim head in Pittsburgh, and a replica of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Nevertheless, these landmarks do not even scratch the surface of what Texas has to offer. Texas is the one place where you can get a 72-ounce steak, a free 72-ounce steak in Amarillo, a tour museum filled of only toilet seats in San Antonio, and feed a beer drinking goat in Lajitas. Wow, what a state. R.J. Bobby Lee, a Midwesterner from Kansas City, grew up on stories about and movies about cowboys, Indians, horses, and Texas cattle ranches. When Lee finally made his way to the Texas Panhandle in Amarillo with his family, it didn't take long for him to embrace the Lone Star State and claim its persona as his own. His only disappointment was that he couldn't find a first-class Texas restaurant in the area of the country best known for cowboys and cattle. In true Texas spirit, Bob decided to create a place where he could satisfy the world's hunger for great steaks and the ambiance of the Old West. He had no idea in those early days that he was destined to become part of Texas' legends and lore that he dreamed of. According to Time magazine reporter Megan Friedman, the Big Texas Steakhouse is one of the state's top 5 attractions and ranks among the top 50 in the nation. Now to the history of the 72-ounce steak challenge. The free 72-ounce steak came to life not long after Bob Lee opened the doors to the Big Texan Steak Ranch House. One day after the cowboy came through the front door, bragging that he was so hungry, he could eat a whole darn cow. Bob put 1 pound of steak on the grill, and so the competition began. When the cowboy finally yelled, "Calf rope," he had consumed over 4.5 pounds of tasty Texas beef. Bob vowed from that day forward that anybody who could accomplish the same feat in 1 hour would go home with a steak for free. Since then, over tens of thousands of people from all around the world have traveled to Amarillo and attempted to eat the specially cut 72-ounce top sirloin steak, a baked potato, salad dinner roll, and shrimp cocktail. Of the mere 7% of individuals hungry enough to complete the task, in a mere 60 minutes, only 14 people have taken on the challenge twice and successfully accomplished the feat. The remaining 93% of people who fell short of steak eating glory have walked away $100 less in their pocket and a sore stomach to boot. When you think of San Antonio, what comes to mind? The Alamo, the Riverwalk, or Barney Smith's Toilet Seat Art Museum. A former plumber, Barney started to modify seats about 30 years ago. It all started when he needed a place to mount a set of small deer antlers. Apparently, the toilet seat lid was just the right shape, and he stuck the antlers on the lid. So it began. Author of novel Texas Roadside Attractions, Sights and Stops, Francis Keeple claims, Mr. Smith gets his inspiration for his seats from all over the world. Many of these seats have personal meaning to him, and some depict his travels around the world in his important days of his life. Now, who's ever heard of Lajitas, Texas? Yeah, me neither. In a town of only 100 people, Lajitas does not offer much for people to be attracted to. However, if you're on your way to the Rio Grande River, make sure you buy a 6-pack and head to Clay Henry's Pen in front of the mayor's house in Lajitas. Once you pop the cap to your favorite beer of choice, Clay Henry, the town's beer-drinking goat, will come running. Well, that's if he hasn't had too many already. People from all over the world come to Lajitas to feed this very unusual attraction. But let's face it, what else is there to do in a city that only has 100 people? As bizarre as Clay Henry's story sounds, he's not the first mountain drinking beer goat in Lajitas. Mr. Henry is actually Clay Henry III. His father and grandfather were the original beer drinking tandem. The first ever beer drinking goat, Clay Henry the Great, was named after the town's beloved tourism enthusiast, Clay Henry Pier, who was later elected Mayor of Lajitas, where he still holds the title. If you ask the locals of Lajitas, they will tell you lots about their town's worship goat. However, Clay Henry III is nothing like his father or grandfather. According to Texas Roadside America's reporter, local Bill Valentine will tell you that Clay Henry Sr. was the best beer-drinking goat he had ever seen. Nevertheless, Valentine will also remind you of Clay Sr.'s freak death in '92 after he and his son, Clay Jr., fought over fellow female goat after a long day of beers. Valentine also claims that Clay Jr. tried to drink away his life after he allegedly had killed his father. Those who feed and see Clay Henry III claim that although he can drink and hold his liquor very well, he's nothing like his grandfather, Clay Henry the Great, at drinking beers. Only in Texas can we get away with a beer-drinking goat. So what can I say other than Texas can put on a show? There is no other place in the world that you can find a glorious 72-ounce steak for free, only if you eat in an hour, of course, a museum compiled only of toilet seats, and see the world's only beer-drinking goat. I want to remind you that Texas is full of some of the greatest attractions in this country has to offer. Nevertheless, if you're ever driving through Texas and you find yourself coming up on one of these cities, just stop and remember the topics we discussed here. Sites like these make us proud to be a Texan, but even more excited about spotting many more of Texas's wacky wonders on our next road trip. Thank you.